In chapter 5 of the book of John, we find that the Jewish religious leaders have been bothered by some of the things that Jesus is doing. So in verse 19, Jesus explains to them exactly why he does the things he does. He says, "Very truly, I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing, because whatever the Father does, the Son does also." So Jesus clarifies here that as God's Son, he is not out there acting independently, doing things according to his own agenda, but that in fact, he is working in unity with God. He also says that whatever he sees God doing, that's what he does also. And if you think about it, this really should be our goal too. Our goal, our hope should be to partner with God in the things that God is doing in this world. But knowing that, we may recognize that it's not always that easy for us to do this. For one thing, we often get caught up in our own agendas, in what we think and want and think would be best and pleases us. We're also often not very aware of what God is doing. It's easy for us to just launch off in a direction without any thought to what God may be doing. It's also easy for us to put little or no effort into trying to discover what God may be doing in and around us, in our church and in the world. So what we really need to do to partner with God, first of all, is we need to try to set our own agendas aside, to stop focusing so much on what we want, on what makes us comfortable, on the way that we think things should be done. Try to really set that aside and be open to what God may be doing. The other thing we need to do is try to really emulate Jesus here and seek as much as we can to see things, to see people in the world from God's perspective. And when we begin to see things from God's perspective, we will also begin to see what it is that God is up to. And it'll make it much easier for us to partner with him. And by faith, we really can do this. We really can begin to see things from God's perspective. In Ephesians 1:18, Paul prays for the Ephesians, and he prays something really interesting. He prays that the eyes of their hearts would be enlightened so that they can see God more clearly, so that they can see his call and his promises for them more clearly. And what Paul is praying for when he's talking about the eyes of our hearts is he's praying for them to develop their spiritual vision, their ability to see things more and more from God's perspective. And I really believe that the more we seek to employ that spiritual vision, the more things tend to come into focus for us. We also need to be praying that God would help us to develop that spiritual vision. And I think another great thing that we can do when we're seeking to kind of figure out what God is up to is to ask other people of faith what they see God doing. And that can help us sometimes to really hone in on what God may be doing around us and give us opportunities. So let's try to set our own agendas aside and be open to what God is doing, and really to look with our spiritual vision and hope to see what God is involved in doing so that we can partner with him in those things. Because when we get in sync with God's plan, great things tend to happen.